I've been advocating for Brexit since 1992 when I was 16, so I can't tell you how excited I am to be here. It's a long-awaited dream. Back then, we were all regarded as eccentric little Englanders, and now I've heard the phrase little Europeans being said by many people, which I think is unfair. I speak as somebody who is not only of Polish extraction, but also Greek and German, so anyone who calls me a little Englander is, I think, a bit out to lunch on that issue. So I have good perspective, I think, and I'm also a Canadian citizen as well, so I'm a citizen of the globe and of Europe and of the UK, and that's why I have no problem at all voting leave and tackling issues like immigration without, hopefully, any accusations of racism landed against me. The Polish community, as you know, is very large, due in large part to the EU's contributions to opening up in 2004 the whole of Eastern Europe, and Poland has benefited from that greatly. So some people may find it curious that there is a group in this country advocating for Britain to have left the EU, but there are very profound similarities between Poland and Britain in terms of their adoration of democracy. We can have a debate about this, but I would say that probably no two other nations in Europe cherish democracy more than Poland and Britain for very clear historic reasons. Britain is the world's oldest continuous democracy, and Poland was home to the oldest constitution in Europe, second only to the Constitution in America, May the 3rd, 1791. And indeed, there's a long struggle, as you may know, of Poland being erased from the map of Europe time and time again throughout the 18th century. Byron and others were great champions of Chopin, other Polish patriots. And indeed, in this country, my family arrived here in 1940, when France was invaded and the Free French and the Polish government fled France to settle here. And there has been a long history of Poles fighting for British freedom and democracy in the Battle of Britain and throughout the Second World War, huge immigrations to Scotland and to this country in England, and then throughout the 60s, fighting the Cold War and fighting communism in Poland. That battle took place here in London with the Polish government in exile, which continued until the 1990s. So democracy is very strong in this country, it's very strong in Poland, and there's a bit of a perverse notion amongst many Poles who've lived here for a long time, who've seen Poland cast off the shackles of a Politburo-led communist state, and they see a bunch of EU commissioners who resemble a Politburo in many senses too, and they can't quite understand, well, some of us can't quite understand why we would so easily hand away our sovereignty when other countries regard that as being the most important identifier of a nation state. And indeed, when the communist countries did become independent, the first thing they did was restore their national symbols, their old flag, their old orders of chivalry, etc. And I think it's that distinction between the metropolitan elite of today, who are internationalists, who smugly say that they are citizens of the world, but there are many people in this country who haven't got the money or the privilege to be citizens of the world. And for them, the nation state is a defining feature of their identity. It is common language, common customs, and common traditions that really define who it is today in the globalized world. And it was the contempt with which they were held by the metropolitan elites, the appalling calumnies fired against them, where we were all suddenly white van man, that I think in large part fueled the result. This wasn't a vote, the idea that being opposed to immigration meant that you were racist wasn't the idea at all. It was about taking back control, and it was about ensuring that people in this country felt some idea that they weren't being ruled by people over there, as people in Poland felt about Moscow, people here could feel about Brussels, perhaps. And that's why there are, you'll be surprised to know, a sizable portion of the population in this country of Polish extraction who are very pleased and happy today.